The stars burned cold and distant as Reed stared at his monitor screen. Another long, boring shift at Beacon 12, the small Confederation outpost floating at the edge of what was once human space. Nobody wanted this post, but Reed didn't mind the quiet. The war between the Stellar Confederation and the Void Empire raged across half the galaxy, but here, at least, there was peace. Reed sipped his bitter stimulant drink and ran the standard scans again. For 3 years, he had performed the same tasks, watching the same empty sector of space. Humans had been gone for centuries now. Some said they destroyed themselves. Others believed the early Void Empire wiped them out. A few thought they simply left. It didn't matter much to anyone except historians and conspiracy theorists. The scanner beeped. Reed almost spilled his drink. A beep meant something different, something new. "Computer, identify energy signature," Reed said, suddenly alert. Unknown energy pattern detected. No match in Confederation or Empire database. The computer replied in its flat voice. Reed's four-fingered hand tapped the console quickly. This wasn't a glitch. The signature was strong, growing stronger, and it came from deep in former human territory. "Record all data and send priority message to Central Command," Reed ordered. He zoomed in on the coordinates. Nothing visible yet, but the energy readings were unlike anything he had seen before. Not Confederation technology. Not Empire weapons. Something else. Far away, the war grew worse. The Void Empire pushed forward, their black ships destroying everything in their path. The Confederation lost 3 more worlds last week. Billions dead or fleeing. The news feeds showed only defeat after defeat. Reed wasn't a soldier or a politician. He was just an analyst, watching a forgotten corner of space. But he knew something important when he saw it. Message received. Stand by for instructions. Central Command responded after an unusually short delay. Someone important had noticed his report. While waiting, Reed dug through the old archives about humans. Small bipeds with soft skin and no natural defenses. Not particularly strong or fast. Short-lived compared to most spacefaring species. Yet they had advanced quickly, explored eagerly, and then simply vanished from galactic affairs. The last recorded human transmission was over 300 years old. "We go to prepare the way." No one understood what it meant. After that, their colonies emptied. Their ships disappeared. Their outposts went dark. Just another failed species in the long history of the galaxy. The communication panel lit up. A direct call from Central Command. Reed straightened his uniform nervously. "Analyst Reed," said the stern face of Commander Tarn, captain of the warship Dauntless. "Your discovery has been classified. Tell no one. The Dauntless will arrive at your position in 30 hours. Prepare all data for transfer." Reed nodded. "Yes, Commander. But may I ask what?" "You may not." Tarn cut him off. "Continue monitoring. Report any changes immediately." The connection ended. Reed turned back to his scanner. The energy signature had changed, forming a pattern now, almost like a signal or a beacon. In the darkness of his small monitoring station, Reed felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The war had seemed endless, the Empire unstoppable. But something was happening in human space, something big enough to make Central Command send a warship. As Reed watched, the pattern grew stronger, more defined. It pulsed like a heartbeat, like something waking up after a long sleep. "Computer, historical query. What was the largest recorded human fleet?" Reed asked suddenly. The human unified fleet consisted of approximately 500 vessels at its peak, before human withdrawal from galactic affairs. The computer answered. Reed nodded slowly, watching the energy readings climb higher. Whatever was waking up out there was far, far larger than 500 ships. And no one in the galaxy was ready for it. Commander Tarn stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, his tall frame rigid with tension. The ship cut through space toward the coordinates from Beacon 12. War had hardened Tarn. 20 years of fighting the Void Empire left little room for wonder or curiosity. Yet the energy readings from human space made even his battle-worn heart beat faster. "We're approaching the anomaly," Commander reported his navigation officer. Tarn nodded. "Shields at maximum. Weapons ready but not active. I want to see before we shoot." The main screen showed empty space, but the sensors told a different story. Massive energy readings, unlike anything in Confederation records. "Sir, something's happening," called out the sensor officer. "Spaces folding." The blackness of space rippled like water. A massive tear opened, revealing swirling colors beyond normal space. The bridge crew fell silent. From this dimensional fold emerged a ship, larger than the Dauntless, with sleek lines and no visible weapons. Its hull gleamed with a metal unknown to the Confederation. "Hail them," ordered Tarn, his voice steady despite his shock. Before his communications officer could act, the ship sent its own message. The view screen activated, showing the human face, female, with dark skin and clear eyes that seemed to look through Tarn rather than at him. "Confederation vessel, this is Captain Mira of the human scout ship Horizon. We greet you in peace." Tarn found his voice. "This is Commander Tarn of the Confederation warship Dauntless. Your arrival was unexpected. Humans have been absent from galactic affairs for centuries." Captain Mira smiled slightly. "Absent, but not gone, Commander. We knew this day would come." "What day?" asked Tarn. "The day when the galaxy would need us again. The day when the war between the Confederation and the Empire reached its critical point." Her voice was calm, as if discussing simple facts rather than secrets hidden for hundreds of years. Tarn's tactical officer whispered urgently, "Sir, I'm detecting more dimensional disturbances. Many more." As if hearing this, Captain Mira said, "The Horizon is merely a scout, Commander. The first to return, the Silent Fleet follows." "Silent Fleet," Tarn repeated. "When humans left the galactic stage, we didn't die out or flee in fear. We embarked on a journey. We developed technologies the warring factions would have weaponized. We waited and watched from beyond normal space. More tiers appeared in space. More ships emerged, dozens, then hundreds. Their designs varied, but all showed the same advanced technology as the Horizon. Your war is destroying worlds, Commander," Mira continued. "The Empire grows stronger with each victory. The Confederation faces extinction. This cannot continue." Tarn felt cold fear mixed with desperate hope. "Are you offering your help? Will you join the Confederation?" Mira shook her head. "We will not join either side. We will end the war." "How?" Tarn demanded. "The Empire won't stop. They want total control. Hundreds of worlds have already fallen. Billions have died. Come aboard the Horizon, Commander. Bring 5 officers. I will explain what humans have been doing these past centuries, what we have learned, what we have built." The transmission ended. Tarn stared at the massive human fleet still emerging from dimensional folds. If these ships had weapons matching their obvious technological advancement, they could indeed change the course of the war. "Sir," his second-in-command stepped closer. "Could this be an Empire trick?" Tarn watched another human ship appear, this one large enough to hold a small moon. "No, the Empire would never share power, even in deception. These are truly humans, returned from somewhere." He made his decision. "Prepare a shuttle. Select 4 senior officers to accompany me." As Tarn headed to prepare for the meeting, he passed the ship's historical database terminal. The screen displayed the last known human transmission. "We go to prepare the way." Now he understood. They had prepared the way for their return. The inside of the Horizon hummed with quiet power. Tarn and his 4 officers followed their human guide through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. The walls glowed with soft light that had no visible source. The air smelled fresh, like a forest after rain. "Your technology is beyond anything I've seen," Tarn admitted to the human guide. 300 years of development, Commander. 300 years of peace and purpose, the guide replied. They entered a large circular room. Captain Mira stood with two other humans, an older male with white hair and a tall female in what appeared to be a military uniform with gold markings on the shoulders. Commander Tarn, welcome, said Mira. This is Dr. Thomas, our chief scientist, and Admiral Lane, commander of the Silent Fleet. Tarn nodded to each. You promised explanations. Mira gestured to the center of the room. The floor became transparent, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red areas marked Empire territory. Blue showed Confederation space. The red had nearly swallowed the blue. Your war has consumed half the galaxy, said Admiral Lane. Her voice was sharp, direct. It will consume the rest if nothing changes. We didn't start this war, one of Tarn's officers protested. The Empire attacks without mercy. We fight to survive. Dr. Thomas stepped forward. We know. We predicted this conflict centuries ago. Predicted? Tarn asked. Dr. Thomas nodded. Humans developed advanced predictive models before we left. We analyzed thousands of years of galactic history. We identified patterns of expansion, conflict, and collapse. This war was inevitable given the Empire's resource needs and the Confederation's defensive posture. Admiral Lane waved a hand, and the galactic map changed, showing historical conflicts spanning thousands of years. The same pattern repeats. New empires rise. Resources grow scarce. Wars begin. Civilizations fall. The cycle continues. If you knew, why leave? Asked Tarn. Why not warn us? Captain Mira's eyes softened. Would the younger species have listened? Or would they have tried to take our predictive technology to gain advantage? Tarn had no answer. They wouldn't have listened. They would have tried to take the technology. We chose a different path, Dr. Thomas continued. We left to develop solutions, not weapons. We traveled to the dwarf galaxies orbiting the Milky Way. We built habitats in dimensional pockets. We studied the fundamental nature of space, time, and energy. The room darkened. A new image appeared, countless human ships and stations floating in strange, colorful spaces beyond normal reality. This is where we've been, Admiral Lane said. Watching, waiting, learning how to break the cycle. Tarn stared at the image in wonder. But why return now? Because now is the critical point, Dr. Thomas replied. Our models show the next 6 months determine everything. If the Empire continues its advance, they will destroy the Confederation completely. Then, without an enemy to fight, the Empire will turn on itself. Billions more will die. The collapse will set galactic civilization back thousands of years. Captain Mira touched a control panel. The image changed again, showing the Silent Fleet position throughout the galaxy. We've maintained observation posts in dimensional pockets at key points for centuries. The Silent Fleet can deploy anywhere, anytime. To fight the Empire? Tarn asked hopefully. Admiral Lane shook her head. Not to fight, to end the need for fighting. I don't understand, said Tarn. Dr. Thomas smiled gently. The war exists because both sides believe there are limited resources to control. What if that were no longer true? Before Tarn could ask more questions, alarms sounded. A human officer rushed into the room. Admiral, Captain, the Empire has launched a major offensive. 3 Confederation core worlds under simultaneous attack. Captain Mira looked at Tarn. Your people are dying, Commander. The Empire thinks this is their moment for total victory. Admiral Lane's face hardened with resolve. They're wrong. It's time to activate the fleet. The galaxy map lit up with thousands of points of light, each representing a hidden human vessel about to reveal itself. Tarn finally understood the name, the Silent Armada. Hidden for centuries, watching in silence, about to speak with a voice the galaxy could not ignore. Supreme Commander Drex of the Void Empire stood on his command platform, towering over his officers. His scaled skin gleamed black under the red lights of the flagship's bridge. 3 massive attack fleets moved across the strategic display, converging on key Confederation worlds. "The final offensive proceeds as planned," reported his second-in-command. "Defenses at Vega Prime are already falling. Polaris and Centauri will follow within hours." Drex's mouth formed what passed for a smile among his species. "The Confederation dies today. Their remaining forces cannot stop us." The intelligence officer approached cautiously. "Supreme Commander, we have detected unusual activity in former human space. The Confederation warship Dauntless was dispatched there 3 days ago and has not returned to their fleet." Drex dismissed this with a wave of his clawed hand. "Humans have been gone for centuries. The Confederation wastes resources chasing ghosts while we destroy their worlds." "Yes, Supreme Commander, but our long-range sensors detect massive energy signatures appearing throughout the galaxy. They don't match any known." A communication officer interrupted. "Supreme Commander, emergency transmission from the Vega Prime attack force." The main screen activated. The commander of the Vega Prime attack looked shaken, his scales pale with stress. "Supreme Commander, unknown vessels have appeared between our fleet and the planet. They emerged from some kind of spatial tear. Hundreds of them. They're everywhere." "Destroy them," Drex ordered simply. "We've tried. Our weapons pass through them or are absorbed without effect. They've deployed some kind of energy field that's neutralizing our engines. We can't advance or retreat." Drex slammed his fist on the command console. "Who dares interfere? Show me these ships." The screen changed to show sleek vessels with no visible weapons, ships unlike any in the galaxy. Human ships. Similar reports flooded in from the other attack forces. The same strange ships, the same impossible technology. The same result: Empire fleets stopped in their tracks without a single shot fired. "All attack fleets, continue the offensive," Drex roared. "Use the planet-killer weapons if necessary." Before his orders could be relayed, every screen on the bridge changed. A human face appeared, a female with dark hair, and a uniform bearing gold markings. "This is Admiral Lane of the human Silent Fleet. Your attack ends now," Drex snarled. "Humans are extinct. This is a Confederation trick." "We were never extinct, Supreme Commander Drex. We simply chose to leave until we were needed. That time has come." On the tactical display, more spatial tiers opened near every major Empire fleet throughout the galaxy. More human ships emerged, surrounding the Empire forces. "You cannot stop us," Drex declared. "The Empire has the largest fleet ever assembled. We will crush any who stand in our way." Admiral Lane's expression didn't change. "You misunderstand. We're not here to fight you. We're here to stop the fighting." As if to prove this claim, the human ships near Vega Prime simply redirected an Empire destroyer that tried to break through their line. No weapons fired, no damage done. The destroyer simply found itself moving in the opposite direction, its engines powerless against the human technology. "What is this?" Drex demanded. "What do you want? For now, we want you to stand down. Recall your fleets. End your attacks." Drex laughed, a harsh sound. "Or what? You clearly have no weapons." For the first time, Admiral Lane smiled. "We don't need weapons, Supreme Commander. Watch." At Vega Prime, an Empire dreadnought launched its planet-killer weapon, a missile designed to crack a world's crust. The humans didn't shoot it down. Instead, the missile disappeared into a small dimensional tear that opened directly in its path. It vanished completely. Moments later, every weapon system on every Empire ship at Vega Prime went dark. Not damaged, simply inactive. Drex stared at the reports flooding in. The same was happening across the galaxy. The mightiest armada ever built, rendered harmless in minutes without a single casualty. "Impossible," he whispered. "Supreme Commander," Admiral Lane said calmly. The war ends today. Whether you cooperate or not is up to you, but it ends regardless. For the first time in his long life, Supreme Commander Drex felt fear. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the Deterrent, the largest ship in the human silent fleet. Through the view screen, he watched as thousands of dimensional gates opened across the galaxy. From each gate emerged a human vessel, taking position between Empire attackers and their Confederation targets. "All ships report successful deployment," said his second-in-command. "The Empire's attacks have been contained." Wilson nodded. His weathered face showed no emotion, but inside he felt relief. 300 years of waiting, watching, and preparing had led to this moment. "Status of the Confederation defenses?" Wilson asked. "Failing at most conflict points. Without our intervention, they would have lost 3 core worlds within hours." Wilson turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to all human vessels." When the channel opened, Wilson spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Admiral Wilson. Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2, demonstration." Across the galaxy, the human ships began to showcase their technological superiority. When Empire vessels fired weapons, the energy blasts either passed through harmless dimensional shifts or were captured by energy absorption fields. When Empire ships tried to maneuver, they found themselves gently but firmly redirected by gravity manipulation. Not a single human vessel fired a weapon. They didn't need to. On the bridge of the Deterrent, Commodore Rivera arrived with an update. "Admiral, the Empire's Supreme Commander is demanding to speak with whoever is in charge of our fleet." Wilson smiled slightly. "Connect us." The screen showed Supreme Commander Drex, his scaled face twisted with rage. "Who are you to interfere in this war? By what right do you neutralize our weapons?" Wilson remained calm. "I am Admiral Wilson of the human silent fleet. We interfere by right of survival, not just ours, but all sentient life in this galaxy. Your ships block our path, but you haven't fired a single shot," Drex observed, suspicion in his voice. "What kind of warriors are you?" "We're not warriors anymore, Commander Drex. We evolved beyond that need." Drex laughed harshly. Pretty words from a species that hid for centuries while others fought and died. Wilson's eyes hardened. "We didn't hide. We advanced. We learned to manipulate dimensions, redirect energy, and harness gravity itself. We could have returned with weapons capable of destroying both the Empire and Confederation. Instead, we chose a different path." As if to prove his point, Wilson nodded to his tactical officer. On the main tactical display, an Empire dreadnought near a Confederation world had just launched its largest weapon, a singularity bomb designed to collapse an entire planet. The Deterrent opened a dimensional gate directly in the bomb's path. The weapon disappeared, swallowed by the gate. Another gate opened far outside the galaxy, ejecting the bomb harmlessly into empty space where its devastating power dissipated without harming anyone. Drex watched this on his own screens, his expression changing from anger to shock. "You see," Wilson said quietly, "we don't need to destroy your ships. We don't need to kill your crews. We simply make your weapons useless." Reports streamed in from across the galaxy. Every human ship was doing the same, neutralizing weapons, redirecting attacks, protecting both sides from destruction. The impossible technology functioned flawlessly, the result of centuries of development beyond the reach of the warring factions. In the heart of Confederation space, Captain Mira's ship Horizon docked with the Confederation Leadership Station. Commander Tarn escorted her to meet with the High Council. At the edge of Empire territory, Dr. Thomas led a delegation to the Empire's nearest major base, offering the same message given by Wilson and Mira. "The war ends today." Back on the Deterrent, Admiral Wilson watched as the first reports of confusion turned to disbelief, then to reluctant acceptance. The Empire fleets, unable to advance or use their weapons, held position. The Confederation forces, seeing their worlds protected, began to stand down. "Send the message to all worlds, all ships, All species, Wilson ordered. Humanity has returned not to conquer, not to destroy, but to bring peace. The silent Armada awakens to end war, not to wage it. Across thousands of worlds, billions of beings looked to the skies as human ships appeared after centuries of absence. The message spread. The war was over. A new era had begun. 3 days after the human intervention, representatives from the Confederation and Empire gathered aboard the neutral space station Harmony. The station, built by humans in less than a day using their dimensional technology, floated at the exact midpoint between Confederation and Empire space. Inside the grand meeting chamber, tension filled the air. Confederation delegates sat on one side, their faces showing exhaustion from years of desperate defense. Empire representatives sat opposite, their postures rigid with barely contained fury. Between them stood a simple round table where Admiral Lane and Dr. Thomas waited. Supreme Commander Drex entered with his guards, his black scales gleaming under the soft lights. Commander Tarn arrived moments later with the Confederation High Council. "This meeting is unprecedented," began the eldest council member. "Never have our peoples gathered without weapons drawn." Drex hissed softly. "Because your human allies have rendered our weapons useless." "Not allies," corrected Admiral Lane. "Mediators. We stand with neither side." Dr. Thomas activated a holographic display above the central table. It showed the galaxy with numerous points of light, marking human ships. "Our fleet remains in position, maintaining the ceasefire. This pause in fighting gives us the opportunity to address why this war exists at all." "The reason is simple," Drex declared. "Limited resources, limited habitable worlds. The Empire needs room to expand, resources to sustain our growing population." The Confederation Council leader countered. "And we need to protect our peoples from extinction at your hands. You take by force what could be shared." The familiar arguments threatened to spiral into the same old conflict. Dr. Thomas raised his hand, and the hologram changed. Now it showed strange, colorful spaces outside normal reality. "This is what humanity discovered during our absence," he explained. "Pocket dimensions, spaces between spaces, realities adjacent to our own, accessible with the right technology." The aliens stared at the display with confusion. "What does this mean?" asked a Confederation scientist. "It means," Admiral Lane said simply, "that the resource scarcity driving this war no longer exists." Dr. Thomas expanded the display, showing human habitats and mining operations in these dimensional pockets. Each pocket dimension offers resources in space comparable to entire star systems, and they're everywhere, layered throughout the galaxy like pages in a book. For the first time, Supreme Commander Drex showed interest rather than anger. "You claim to have technology that opens these spaces, not just opens them, stabilizes them, makes them habitable." Dr. Thomas gestured, and a small dimensional gate opened beside the table. Through it, they could see a lush garden that shouldn't exist in the confines of a space station. Commander Tarn stepped forward cautiously. "You offer to share this technology?" "Yes," Admiral Lane confirmed, "but only if peace is maintained, only if both sides agree to end the war permanently." Drex laughed without humor. "So we trade one dependency for another. Instead of fighting for resources, we beg humans for access to these pocket dimensions." "No," Dr. Thomas shook his head. "We will teach your people to create and maintain the dimensional gateways yourselves. Knowledge shared, not controlled." A ripple of surprise passed through both delegations. Sharing such powerful technology was unheard of. "Why would you do this?" asked the Confederation Council leader. "What do humans gain?" Admiral Lane smiled slightly. "Peace, stability. The end of a destructive cycle that has repeated for millennia." She paused, looking at each delegate in turn. "Humanity withdrew from galactic affairs to find a solution, not an advantage. We could have returned as conquerors. Instead, we return as teachers." On display screens throughout the station, similar meetings took place on other human vessels across the galaxy. The same explanation. The same offer. The same choice presented to all species. Slowly, tentatively, representatives from both sides approached the central table. Questions were asked. Technical details explained. Suspicions voiced and addressed. By day's end, the impossible had happened. The first Joint Confederation Empire research team was established to study dimensional technology under human guidance. Outside the station, human ships maintained their positions, weapons still inactive on all sides. The silent Armada stood watch as the first fragile threads of peace began to form. Dr. Thomas looked out a viewport at the stars. Phase 3 beginning, he said quietly to Admiral Lane. Transition from intervention to education. Lane nodded. The hardest phase. Fighting is easy. Building peace takes time. But for the first time in generations, time was something the galaxy finally had. 1 year after the human intervention, the galaxy had changed in ways once thought impossible. On the former battlefield world of Tenara, now a neutral meeting ground, Admiral Lane walked through gardens that bloomed where destruction had once reigned. Beside her walked Commander Tarn, and surprisingly, Supreme Commander Drex. The joint research teams report success on 15 more dimensional gateway projects. Lane informed them. Within months, both the Confederation and Empire will have full access to pocket dimensions equal to 50 star systems each. Drex, his scales now bearing the silver markings of a diplomatic rank alongside his military insignia, nodded slowly. My people still struggle to understand why humans did not use this technology to conquer us all. Lane smiled. That path was considered and rejected centuries ago. They reached a clearing where a massive structure stood, the first permanent dimensional gateway built by non-human engineers. Around it worked members of a dozen species, some from the Confederation, others from the Empire, still wearing their respective uniforms, but no longer reaching for weapons. Admiral Wilson reports that 70% of the Silent Fleet has been converted from defensive to exploration configuration. Lane continued. The remaining 30% will maintain peace until your joint security forces are fully established. Tarn looked at the gateway with wonder still evident in his eyes. Many in the Confederation believed your people were myths or monsters. Yet you saved us without firing a single shot. Not entirely without cost, Lane reminded him. Humanity sacrificed centuries of isolation to prepare this solution. Many generations lived and died never seeing their ancestral homeworlds. The three leaders paused before a memorial wall where the names of those human generations were inscribed. Not casualties of war, but contributors to peace. In orbit above them, the human flagship Deterrent maintained its watch. But now it was joined by Confederation and Empire vessels working together on joint patrols. Their weapons remained, but their targets had changed from each other to the true enemies. Pirates, natural disasters, and the occasional rogue faction unwilling to accept peace. My predecessor would never have believed this possible, Drex admitted, referring to the previous Supreme Commander who had been removed from power after the human intervention. An empire built on conquest, now building instead. They entered a large dome where representatives from dozens of worlds gathered. Dr. Thomas stood at a central podium, teaching alien engineers the principles of dimensional mathematics. The knowledge humans had guarded for centuries was now being freely shared. Phase 4 begins next month, Lane told her companions. The first joint expedition to the dwarf galaxies where humanity established its major colonies. Your people will be welcome there. Tarn seemed hesitant. And after that, will humans withdraw again? Lane shook her head. No. Our isolation served its purpose, but it's ended now. Humanity returns to the galactic community as equals, not saviors or conquerors. As if to emphasize her point, they passed a classroom where human children learned alongside young aliens from both former factions. The next generation would know only cooperation, not the hatred of war. On a balcony overlooking the city, they paused to watch the sunset. Ships from all species moved through the sky, many heading toward the dimensional gateway where new worlds awaited exploration. The silent Armada served its purpose, Lane said softly, waking at the critical moment, acting decisively, then transforming rather than remaining a military force. Drex, who had once commanded the largest armada in the galaxy, looked thoughtful. You had the power to destroy us all, yet chose another way. That was always the plan, Lane replied. From the day humans first left, our goal was to return not with better weapons, but with a better path. As darkness fell, lights came on throughout the city, but brighter still were the dimensional gateways opening in orbit, their swirling energies promising access to resources in spaces beyond imagination. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson humanity had to teach, that true power lay not in weapons that destroy, but in knowledge that creates. The silent Armada had awakened not to wage war, but to end the very concept of war itself. And in that goal they had succeeded beyond all expectation.